Welcome to No Boxes, Just Verses, the podcast where we go beyond the bios, beyond the resumes, beyond the titles, and we focus on a leader's inspiring journey all through the music that has moved them. Each week, we bring you 5 songs, 5 lessons, and 1 unforgettable playlist.
No boxes, just verses. We're not playing around. No boxes, just verses. Listen to the sound. No boxes, just verses. Our stories out loud. No boxes, just verses. Watch wisdom astound. The stories of how we found our way. Stories of how we learned to pray. Our stories out loud. Our wisdom, our pearls, everyone say wow, 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 wow. Woo, no boxes, just verses. Feel it move.
And today, I am joined by my dear friend, the incomparable Malinda Williams. Malinda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for having me. This is such a treat for me.
Such a treat for me and my listeners. Oh my gosh. Okay, guys, you know how we do it. So I am going to first give this woman her flowers and read her bio. And I put my glasses on, my good glasses, so I can really see. Malinda Williams is an acclaimed actress, producer, and cultural icon whose work has profoundly shaped film, TV, and community empowerment. She made her television debut on The Cosby Show and went on to appear in hit series including Miami Vice, Sister Sister, and Moesha before her breakthrough role as Tracy Bird Van Adams, who could forget that, in Showtime's groundbreaking series Soul Food. This pioneering drama became the longest-running U.S. primetime series with a predominantly Black cast, with Williams' performance serving as a cornerstone of the cultural and critical success. Her work also includes films such as The Wood, Idlewood, and Tyler Perry's Daddy's Little Girls, showcasing her range across comedy, drama, and music and field storytelling. But this bio does not end there because Malinda has expanded her career into the tech world. And this is where we really get to meet, teaching herself to code after discovering a book called Coding for Dummies. Oh, I can't wait to get into that story. So leaning on her faith during a transitional, what she calls wilderness season, she embraced her natural talents and courage to pivot industries. And this show is all about being unboxed. So pivoting is right up our alley. Malinda has dedicated to creating pathways for the next generations of artists, entrepreneurs, and tech enthusiasts. You know, in 2023, she founded the Arise and Shine Foundation, which is a 501c3 that's dedicated to wellness, empowerment, and creative entrepreneurship for underserved communities. Through educational summits, workshops, and mentorship, Malinda continues to champion representation, meaningful storytelling, and holistic growth, using her platform to uplift both emerging talent and future innovators. Malinda, welcome to the show.
Thank you for that.
Wow, you've had quite a career, but I do definitely want our listeners to understand how you are one of those people. You are a lifelong learner. You are a lifelong curious person. It's made you very successful in everything that you pursue.
Yeah.
But we got to figure out how this all started.
Yeah.
Where does a young Malinda grow up? What are her influences? You did stump me on this song because I had not heard it before. Your song is called Sun Shower by Dr. Buzzard's original Savannah band.
That's right. That's taking it back. It's old school. It is a classic. It may be more of a regional classic. I am from New Jersey. Born and bred, Jersey strong. Yeah, all day long. We also like to rhyme.
You're good at that too.
But yeah, that's where I put down my roots. I was originally born in Germany. My father was in the service. He was in the Army.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a paratrooper in the Army. My family then moved to New Jersey. Well, we're all from New Jersey, both sides of my family, my parents. And so that song was a song, I think it came out right around 1978. Or 79.
Okay.
And I was 8 or 9 years old. And the reason why I really love that song, or why that song really resonates with me, you know, really it's in the title, Sun Shower. But even thinking about it, get a little bit emotional thinking about it may be raining, but somewhere the sun is still shining. You know, that is kind of something that epitomizes my outlook on life. Really, that's kind of how I see myself. But more than that, growing up in my parents' home, I grew up in a 2-parent home that I thought was perfect, as we do, right? It was a very loving home. I had a father who was very present and very protective of 3 girls. And so that song reminds me of the protection that we had, of the love that we had from our parents and amongst each other, the siblings. But it also reminds me of loyalty, because during that time, my parents were going through a rough patch. My parents are still married 65 years, thank God, and counting. Yes. But during that period, my parents were going through a rough patch. And I'm told they were separated.
Okay.
Living in 2 different households. But at the time, as a child, I was unaware. I was not aware. I was delusional. I just, when you're a child at that age, you think, well, this is what a family is.
I see.
You see, my dad was here and my mom was there, but we're still a family. And when I went to visit my father, we did things that we did. A daughter does with her father. And when I was with my mom, I did things a daughter does with her mom. But we were still a family. I'm told, because I put it somewhere, I'm told it was a year that they were separated, right? But for me, there was no separation.
Yeah.
And that song, I recall my dad playing that song when I would visit his space and his place. So that song is almost like a connection. You know what I mean? It's the connection that kept my family together. Wow. I'm also told, because I was just being a child.
Right.
I'm also told that I really was the reason, the connection the reason my parents got back together. For whatever I was doing at the time, whatever I was saying, or however I was being, it was a tether. I was the thread. Wow. So that song is very special. Very special.
Oh my gosh, that is such a powerful, heartfelt story. Yeah. So I'm sure every time you hear that song, it transports you back to support and love and belonging.
It does. And if you listen to the song, when you listen to the song, there's a drum rhythm in the song that is very much like a heartbeat. It beats like a heartbeat. And then you can hear the rain. And then you hear the children. There are actually children. Say, sun shower, just a sign of. There's children singing in the song. It's a very special song. So it's hard not to feel when you are listening to it. Certainly not for me.
Right. No, thank you for sharing that. Now I've got to go back and really listen to this song. And now every time I hear it, I'm going to think of you.
Oh,
probably I'll never be able to hear that song without thinking about, Malinda told me this story. And it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
So you grew up with a lot of love and a lot of support. You and I have talked about we're both daddy's girls in that way. Our fathers poured a lot into us. Yeah. And I know that you had that sense of just community. But the next season in your life, I love the song you picked, but it's a completely different type of song than this first one. It is Fight the Power by Public Enemy. So what happens to, you grew up in New Jersey, you graduate from high school. What's the next season of life and why fight the power?
Ooh, this was a really interesting time when Public Enemy came out with that album and Fight the Power. It was visceral. When that song would come on, and Spike Lee movies, like we were finding our culture and our community and really assessing our Blackness. You know what I mean? What it meant to be Black. Because everything that I was learning through Public Enemy songs and X-Clan, they were Queen Latifah, we were learning a lot about our history that we were not being taught in school. And so that's where I was going, wait a minute, something's missing here. Something is off. I'm hearing this through this music and through my peers. Is this true? What do I not know about Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey and all of these people that I'm hearing through this urban music through music that deeply resonates with me that I was not taught in this school. And so that's when, and it happened to be where I was, during my more rebellious years, where I was discovering my own power. I was the youngest of 3 girls. And so that came with people trying to control me, people telling me where to go and what to wear, where to sit, how to talk, what to do. And I knew I had my own mind and my own opinion and my own ambitions. And so that music of that time and the sentiment really forced me to kind of try to come outside of myself to discover, who am I in this world? And it starts in your family.
Yeah.
So who am I in this family? And rather than just put your hands on your hips and saying, I don't want to do, don't be a brat, go find your place, go find your voice, discover who you are. And so Fight the Power, really, for me, it evoked that sense of, well, who am I in this family? And then now who am I? Because my family was there and they gave me the confidence. And they gave me the confidence, quite frankly, to go out in the world and say, now who am I in this world? And then when I got to the industry, that carries forward. Well, who am I in this industry? And rather than always having the question, and it was a question, I wasn't always asking the question, though. I was actively seeking the answer. So rather than going, well, who am I? Who am I? It's, no, I'm going to go discover who I am, and then I'm going to show, first myself, who I am, but then my family, and then the world around me.
So armed with that type of demeanor and attitude, I mean, you go into the industry very early on, but how did that happen?
I got into the industry, very young. I was 10 years old when I did my first job. We were skating. I was out on the blacktop skating in my hometown in New Jersey. At the time, it was Edison. And I lived in my family lived in an apartment complex, and we would be out like jump rope skating on the blacktop. And I remember these people, a group of people, maybe 3 or 4 individuals in like suits, came onto the playground, could never do this nowadays, right? But came onto the playground and were like asking us questions. Where are your parents? And we were just like, we live right there. My mom's not home right now. She's at work,
Yeah, that
could
never happen.
never do that nowadays.
They get arrested as like pedophiles.
Big time. But it turns out they were talent scouts.
That's wild.
Right? Do they even have those anymore? Talent scouts came to our neighborhood and watched us real kids in real time being ourselves. And they happened to pick me. I don't know if they picked many other children they chose, but they chose me to give our parents a card to come in for an audition. And we went into New York City and auditioned, and I got my first job, shortly thereafter.
I mean, to your point, you are giving that to your parent. If somebody did that we both have kids now, you'd be like, that's a scam. Call the cops. They're trying to take money from us.
Right.
But this is a different time,
Yeah.
So your parents were like, okay, we'll take her and figure out if this is like, on the up and up.
Is it real?
Is it real?
And mind you, my parents were really in no position because they both worked 2 jobs.
Oh, my.
Or the midnight shift or whatever.
Right.
It was like, where are you going to find the time to now do this? Because really it was kind of like an extracurricular activity.
I see.
It was like putting your kid in gymnastics or ballet or, but they stuck in there and they pursued it.
Wow.
And
but they saw something in you.
They knew.
Yeah.
They did know. And if I'm being honest, I knew too, like I always was putting on a show in the basement. You know what I mean? I always was performing, if you will, or mimicking what I saw happening in life. I would take that characterization or that character and role play it at my house, because we were pretty sheltered. Aside from playing in our apartment complex, we were pretty sheltered. We played with each other.
Yeah.
My sisters and I.
Did you, when you were in high school, did you do any of the plays and the drama and all that type of stuff?
Not one.
Wow.
Not one. So in high school, I was already professionally, I was making TV shows and movie and television commercials. I don't want to say past because
why not?
It's something different though. Because A school play is different, I think. No.
I did school play. I feel like I could say pass. I did Hello Dolly. And yeah, no, that's not like what you were doing.
Yeah, no, I definitely was already professionally
Hello Dolly
acting, working.
I was not.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So no, I never did a school play. I was on the cheering squad. I definitely did some extracurricular things at the school, but none of it was around drama.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Well, part of it may be because you were just still exploring, like you said, the song is Fight the Power. You're still trying to discover yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So you're trying a bunch of things and your parents are like, hey, we're here to support it. So you graduated from high school. Like I said, you're in your Fight the Power mode.
Yeah.
Do you stay in Jersey or do you go out to California, New York? Where do you go?
Yeah. I graduated high school. I was still in Jersey. And I actually went to cosmetology school.
That's right.
So I went to cosmetology school because I thought the expectation was that I would go to college, right? I was like, oh, my sisters both went to college.
Right.
I'm probably supposed to go to college, even though I'm the most terrible student you ever met. But I went to community college.
Well, you say you're a terrible student, but I happen to know that you're actually a great student, especially later in life. I just wonder, were you just not motivated? You know what I mean? Like, because
I think it's a learning style, right? Like sometimes people will try to teach me a thing and I will be like, what, show me? Because once you show me, you've demonstrated it to me. Now I'm running with it. I got it.
Right.
Or I read it myself. I've learned this term, autodidactic. And autodidactic is self-taught.
Yep.
And I realized that if you put something in front of me and have me work it out, like an engineer, I'll take it apart, I'll see how it works, I'll put it back together.
Yes, you will.
And then I'll be like, I got it. And now I can teach it.
You are literally one of the most analytical people that I know. Like you dissect all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So it does surprise me that you were like, I don't feel like I was like the best student. I'm like, but you were like super analytical.
Yeah. So, I don't know where, honestly, in school, I just say this, in school, in high school, and in college, I wasn't the best student. I would just drift off. They would be teaching and writing things, and I would just be, my imagination would be floating around somewhere else. Every time I got a report card, every single report card said, she's unattentive. And my dad would be like, it says you're unattentive. And I would be like, what? What does that mean? But cut to, I couldn't hack college myself because there was this course or curriculum of things classes you had to take. And I was like, I don't really want those classes. I want these classes. So I was just taking classes I was interested in, but I knew it wasn't really going toward any kind of degree.
What do you do with it?
So I said, well, what am I doing? And so my aunt opened a salon, or she said she was going to open a salon. And so when she said she would open the salon, I said, all right, well, let me go to cosmetology school. I like doing hair. My mother's been doing hair at the house for all these years, and I know hair. So let me go ahead and go do that. Right. So I went to cosmetology school. And that's also around the same time. I was still discovering myself, still discovering who I am. It was still a creative pursuit. And it allowed me to continue to be social with clients. Mm-hmm. It also gave me the flexibility to be able to go into New York City, film a commercial or a TV show, and then come back to, it was a really nice balance between being grounded and being a TV star.
Right.
So
crazy. But that's the life you're living.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're doing this for a while, but eventually things do change.
As they always
do.
Yeah.
And you kind of go into this next season. So you actually alluded a bit to this song earlier on in this conversation. You picked Janet Jackson's Control. Okay. And I wish I used to know by heart the beginning of that song. She's like, control is what I don't know it anymore.
Yeah. Control is what I want. Whew, that was an incredible time. That was an incredible time for me. I was doing what I wanted to do. I think at that point, my parents trusted me. They're like, okay, she got a job.
Yeah.
She's making her own money. I was making money, so I was able to I bought my own car. I paid my own, young person bills.
Right.
I'm still living in my parents' home, though, but I paid enough of the bills that, I wasn't a burden.
Yeah.
Not that I would have been, but I wasn't a burden. And I was in New York City partying. When I tell you partying, dancing. Please don't misunderstand.
Right, I got
I
you.
went to New York City at least 4 nights every week
Oh, my.
and danced till 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I would leave the city and I would go to that salon and I would sit down in the chair and do nails. I was and that was a great time for me.
Right.
It was New Jersey, house music. And me and my sister or my girlfriend, we would just go to the city and we would just party, just listen to music and twirl and dance and have a good time. It was an amazing time.
Yeah.
It was an amazing time. And that to me felt like control. It felt like that version of control. My parents trust me. And my dad did a really wonderful thing. Going back a little bit. When we were young teenagers, we would ride our bikes. Remember I said we were a little sheltered when we were younger? Well, when we became adolescents, we would ride our bikes to different areas of town. And my dad is so amazing, but my dad, he didn't really let us go far. We would always go, we would be able to be on the porch, or you could go on your bike and you would have to be back in like 15 minutes or whatever, right? But there was this one area of town where, there were some boys there that we liked or liked us or whatever the case was. And we would ask our father if we could go ride our bikes down there. Mm-hmm. And he would be like, yeah, you can go ride your bike. And he would be like, be back in 30 minutes. And we'd be like, yes, Daddy said we can go. Come on, let's go. And what we didn't realize was that it would take us about 12 minutes to get there, which meant it would take us about 12 minutes to get back.
Uh-huh.
And so my father knew this, but we didn't have a great sense of time. All we knew was my father was giving us, he was giving us some privilege, some freedom.
Yeah.
And we jumped. And by the time we got there, we were down there. We had our little, Daddy let us, we here, we out. And they're like, yeah, but you got to leave in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So we would get there. We would literally have 3 to 5 minutes before we had to head back. And we didn't recognize this until we were like adults. We're like, Dad, do you know what you did? He was like, yeah, I know what I did. He's like, I gave you some rope.
Yes, he gave you some rope.
But only just enough.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, brilliant. Mm-hmm. So cut to when I'm out, riding through uptown to Harlem and the Bronx and things.
Right.
I always had in the back of my mind my father's trust for me. And don't screw up your father's trust. Mm-hmm. Get home when he says get home. Mm-hmm. Don't do anything that is going to make him mistrust you.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I love how you're like, wait a minute. He bamboozled us.
He did. He did. But he's also, my dad is, he was raising 3 girls.
Yeah.
And he knew he couldn't keep too tight a leash on us, a hold on us, because then we would rebel.
You would. That's right.
He knew that.
Right.
Yeah. But he also knew what was out there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave you just enough. But he gave you all a great foundation.
Yeah.
And so you're certainly a young adult. You're living, you are living your life. You're making your own money. You're doing, like you said, you're on TV, but you're also going to the salon. You're living this life and you're in control.
I was in control.
You're in control.
Well, I thought I was in control. You couldn't tell me I wasn't in control.
But what happens next? Because you actually do wind up certainly leaving Jersey.
Yeah.
And making a big pivot at that point.
Yeah. And as I said, my father was very integral in my self-confidence and in our upbringing.
Yep.
And this is the second time I saw my father cry. It's when I left home.
Oh.
First time was when his grandfather passed, my great-grandfather, who he is named after.
Okay.
And then the second time was when I was leaving home. And it was very spontaneous. It was right before a birthday. Mm-hmm. And I was still living in my parents' home. And what was beginning to happen was that I was beginning to experience accomplishments. But I also felt like if I stay here in this time, I'm going to get stuck. That's just what I was thinking. Huh. And in that moment, the fear of getting stuck was greater than the fear of going out to explore. leaving the nest, leaving the home,
Yep.
leaving my parents' home. Because I didn't know what was out there. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I had gotten a few commercials and I had banked some money, but I didn't know what I was going to do, really. And I had never lived outside of my parents' home. But getting stuck was a great fear. So I said, well, I got to go. Then I got to pack. I'm going to call. I'm going to find somebody to ship this car to California. Because I knew one person in California, that was Charles S. Dutton, who said, if you ever come to California, call me, I'll give you a job. I was like, well, I can go to California. And if anything else, I've got my cosmetology license. I can go work in a salon. That's what I thought.
You had a backup plan.
I thought I did. Well, I thought I did.
Okay.
I thought I needed a backup plan. But I didn't.
Okay.
So I packed up my car within 2 weeks. I made the decision, and within 2 weeks, that car was on a car carrier truck on its way to California. I had packed a trunk, my dad's Army trunk, and I put it in the car, and then I got on a plane, and I left. I told my parents I'll be back in 2 months. That's what I told my parents.
And the 2 months was because you were saying if it doesnn't work out, like, what was the 2 months
I don't
for?
know why I said 2 months. That's probably why my daddy was crying, because it was like, what are you talking about? You shipped your car.
Right.
All your stuff is gone.
Right. How does
You
that
cleaned
work?
your room.
Right. How does that
You
work?
ain't coming back.
Right.
But no, I think maybe I said 2 months. Maybe it was more for me than my parents, because I honestly didn't think I was leaving for good. And maybe that's how I was able to trick myself into actually making it happen over the course of 2 weeks and not procrastinating or, holding myself back. I'm packing all my stuff and putting together the trunk and calling the people. It's like, it's only 2 months.
Yeah.
That's what I was telling myself, perhaps to make it easier to do.
Yeah. You, in your back of your head, you're like, well, I have a safety net and it's not forever. And I'm just going to go try this thing to see if it works out. But there's something in you that's saying, I need better for myself. I need to do something else for myself. Like that was louder than the stability.
Listen, and what I have since come to understand, I am a woman now I'm 55 years old, okay? What I have since come to understand is that your calling, your higher self, God, the universe, whatever it is, however you characterize it, will pull you. No matter what excuse you are making for yourself, it will pull you to your destiny.
Yeah. So
if I needed to call it 2 months, that's fine, boo. Just let's go. Come on. You know what I mean? Like, whatever excuse I needed to make for it, my destiny was pulling.
Yeah.
My destiny was calling.
Your steps were ordered. I've said that several times in this podcast.
Yes.
And a lot of leaders, this is a common theme. So you got pulled.
I got pulled
into your steps.
Yeah.
You come to Los Angeles. You know one person. Who you know is somebody that is famous and was helping, and especially back then, was really helping with a lot of folks in the industry and mentoring a lot of folks in the industry. Mm-hmm. He had a show, right?
He did.
It was called The Rock?
It was called Rock.
Rock, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, somebody, that's a good person to know. You didn't,
Yeah. But I didn't know that.
You didn't know that at the time. But you get here.
I get here. And
what's that like, especially in the beginning, because you're only here for 2 months.
I'm here.
For 2 months.
I'm here for 2 months. I'm going to tell you something. What was crazy was that the first thing I did was call him, because I'm from Jersey, right? And we tell it like it is. Right. So if you say, call me, I'm going to hold you to it.
Not like LA people.
Not at all. Like, oh, call me. Oh, they don't really mean that. No. I was from Jersey, and so I understood that to mean, well, he said call him, and I'm got this number, so I'm going to call him.
Right.
And to this day, I still have that skill, if that's a skill. I'll tell you, I don't care who you are. If I have your number and I need to get something or know something, I'm calling you.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
So anyway, I called him, and what was very interesting about that call was he said, okay, I want you to call this person. Her name was Eileen McKnight. Mm-hmm. I want you to call Eileen McKnight and go in, and she's going to call you in and have you audition. I was like, okay. So she called me into her office. She gave me a script to read. I think it was like Me and the Boys. It was like a Steve Harvey show. It was to guest on that or something like that. So I read for her, and she said, wait right here. I want you to meet somebody. And so she goes out of the room and she comes back in with another woman named Monica Swan. And between the two of them, they cast every Black show that was on the air and any movies that were going on at the time. So that's how Charles S. Dutton introduced me to Eileen McKnight, who opened the door, literally opened the door, brought Monica Swan in, and I started making my rounds on all the TV shows.
Wow.
And so Moesha and Sister, and all the things you see me on are because of those two women who opened, and for Rock, for Charles Dutton, who opened the door for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my first lesson when I got to Hollywood. Open the door for somebody.
That's such a powerful lesson. I know that you actually have done that for a lot of people yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the origin of it, which actually predates even you coming to Los Angeles, in my opinion. You literally learned those lessons as a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you make all these rounds on all these shows. I'm certainly seeing you on a lot of these shows. Malinda, I'm in grad school. First of all, shout out to, I loved how you wore your hair. I wore my hair very similar to that, so I'll have to try to find some old pictures.
I've seen some.
I have some pictures like that. But I loved how you wore your hair. You were a brown-skinned girl, and you were and still are so beautiful. And so it was so inspiring to see you on these shows. And then Soul Food happens.
Mm-hmm.
And take us through how that becomes an opportunity for you.
Wow. What's crazy is I didn't see it as an opportunity. Apparently everybody saw it but me, because at the time I was going through, I wasn't even going through the divorce yet. My marriage was in trouble. That's what they say, right?
Yes, that's what they say.
My marriage was in trouble. We were on the rocks.
Right.
And the opportunity came before me, and I immediately turned it away. I declined because family was the most important thing to me. And so I said, no, my family needs me. I need to try to fix this marriage or repair this or whatever is going on. And so that's for somebody else. It's not for me. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow.
Respectfully. And then it came back around again, a second time. And I was like, but didn't I say I don't want to do this? What part of it don't you understand? I'm not going to play Bird on the TV series Soul Food. And besides that, who's going to follow behind me along? Like, that's not going to happen. She killed it. Right. And why are they even doing a series? Right. I was just, again, making all kinds of excuses for what I thought I wanted for my life, or what I thought was supposed to be happening in my life at the time.
Yeah. And
then it came back around a third time.
Oh, my God.
And after this third time, and I was telling someone earlier, I said, I am a woman who, I listen to my intuition and my instincts and signs, right? I've since learned to be more radically obedient about listening to those signs. But back then, I was in late 20s. But back then, I was still learning to trust myself, my instincts, right? Understanding what that voice was and how God sends you signs and angels. And one thing started happening after another. I was in the grocery store and bumped into someone who said, "Oh, hey, I heard you're testing for Soul Food." I was like, "But I'm not. What are you talking about?" "No, but how you doing? You good? Okay, nice seeing you."
Right.
And then I went to a screening. Another person came up to me and was like, "Hey, good to see you. I heard you're testing for Bird." I was like, who's saying this? Because I'm not. I have been saying no.
Right.
And then I got in the car after that screening. It was in Culver City, and I lived in the Valley. I got in the car after that screening, and I just said, "God, what is going on? What am I missing here? Am I supposed to be going to Toronto to, leave my family? I have a little baby. What is this about?" And then I just said, "I'm waiting to hear from you, so let me know. Let me know what I'm supposed to do." And I remember getting on the on-ramp to the 405. Yeah. And when I got on the on-ramp to the 405, I just heard, "Go." So I called my agent the next morning, and I said, "Where am I supposed to go? I guess I'm going to go." And I studied the lines, but I really didn't need to study the lines because the lines that were in that audition piece were literally the lines that I had been saying in my house the night before, 2 weeks before. And it was just like, okay, I'm just going to say these lines, but I'm not acting. I'm just saying the lines. And I get to that audition, and when I say, and it was like 14 people in a room, very small room. And there were the producers and the writer and the network executives and the studio executives. And I was so detached. Because even then I heard go, but I hadn't resigned to the fact that I was going to Toronto to play the role. I was just going to the audition test.
Right.
And so I get in there and I start acting out the scene. And like I said, the scene very closely paralleled a scene in my own life and situation. And by the time I finished that scene, you could hear a pin drop and mouths were open. And I feel like I blacked out, to be honest with you. And everybody in the room was like,
wow.
And I looked up and I thought, I was mortified. I was mortified because I thought, now they know my business. That's what I thought. And I literally said, I'm sorry. And I ran out of the room. And they were like, don't be sorry. He was really good. And I realized at that moment that this role is probably for me because, they don't know my business. They didn't write my life.
Right.
It just happened to be I had the experience. And, I later found out everybody knew but me. They were like, oh, no, we knew you were going to be Bird. Like, all my peers were like, oh, no, we already knew. And all the other actresses were like, no, it was always you.
Yeah.
And turns out that was a very, obviously, very pivotal time in both my life and my career. Yep. God was like, no, I'm giving you an opportunity. I'm giving you a role. I'm giving you a way to be independent and take care of yourself and your child. I'm giving you a way to heal. I'm giving you work to work through. You have to get it out. You have to mourn. You have to express all of the things. And I was able to express things that I was experiencing through my character.
That's right.
I was healing. Bird was healing for me.
That's right. I can't imagine you not having
they say that now. Yeah.
I was such a pivotal role and it meant so much to so many people.
Yeah, I wasn't going. I was like, I am not going to Toronto, lady. What are you talking about?
Well, I am glad you were on the 405 and you heard go.
Yeah.
Because we would have all been deprived of you, our Bird.
I would have been deprived.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Most importantly.
So, okay. Obviously, Soul Food winds up becoming a big success and you go on to do a lot of other things. But, you pivot, like you said, life pivots. And kind of for this next season, you pick Erykah Badu's Bag Lady.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Ooh, that was such a iconic song and album and time for me. I picked Bag Lady because it was a time in my life where I learned, and I'm still learning, and we learn as we go. But it was a time in my life where I realized, Malinda, I'm a very forgiving person. I don't hold grudges, in other words, but I wasn't as forgiving back then. I was always trying to internalize or personalize, or why is this happening to me, or why would you do that to me? And not really realizing that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And everybody, and I mean everybody who comes into your life is a vessel. Some are vessels for accelerated growth, and some are vessels for messages, but everybody's a vessel. Our children are vessels. Our parents are vessels. They're vessels. They've come to be our teachers. And we are their teachers, right? We're also vessels. And so I learned at that point in my life that through this song, this song was resonating throughout that experience that, yes, but you don't have to carry all these experiences with you as and make them your story.
Right.
They're just things that happen along the way. But if you take a bag with you every time something happens, you're going to be bogged down. You're not going to be able to move fast. You're going to miss your bus. You can't hurry up.
Right.
You got too much stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the lyrics are so resonant, and it's just like, you know what? No, it's okay to let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful song.
Yeah.
It says, let it go. So you can be beautiful. You can float. You can be graceful. And you can be open for the next experience.
Yep.
And the next vessel who has come to teach you the next lesson.
Well, that's a great pivot because you then are open.
Yeah.
You're both open personally and professionally because you do make a pivot on both fronts.
Big one.
Big pivots. You wind up, first of all, I want to understand how you pick up this Coding for Dummies book. And then you meet your wonderful husband. And you guys are so cute. By the way, follow them on IG. We'll give her the IG. You should see their photo shoots. I'm like, Bill, can we do a photo shoot like that? He's like, no, we cannot.
Come on, Bill.
We could not. But talk about these pivots. And we are in this phase of your life where I love the song that you pick, which is Mary J. Blige's Just Fine. Because you are just fine,
I'm
right?
just fine. I'm going to be just fine.
Your son, he's an adult.
Yes.
He's just fine in his life. Like,
That's
yeah,
right.
what are these pivots and why that song?
So it didn't come about easily. I will say this. I had moved back to New Jersey and I had gotten into another situation and was, again, going through something very rocky.
Situationships is what my son calls them.
It was a situationship. But it was not just a situation in that, again, we're talking about a vessel, right?
Yeah.
Because I always say my husband, my husband Tariq, who is my rock, who is an incredible individual. I strongly believe now that I was in a situation of accelerated growth because this meetup was destined for a certain time and I was dragging my booty on it, right? I was getting comfortable. So I was in this comfortable jungle, as comfortable as you could be in the jungle,
Right.
in the wilderness. And, life has peaks and valleys, and I was in the valley and I was in a not so great place personally, emotionally, financially, mentally. I was mostly okay, but I was not in a great place as I was dissolving a situation that shouldn't have been. And I remember in that time asking God, saying, okay, this doesn't really look good for me right now. Meaning things look bleak. Like I am pretty much at the bottom of the barrel and it looks like the barrel is about to go away.
Oh.
Right. So help me. And what I was hearing in my soul was, okay, well, if you want to see something different, you're going to have to be something different. You're going to have to show up different. Now, at the time, I didn't really know what that meant. But I was, open. I was also learning to be more obedient to that voice and listen to that spirit, that voice within that sounds just like me. But only this time, she wasn't, driving, being bossy. She was more humble and she was more inquiring of, well, she was more in a position to say, I don't have the answers. I need an answer. That's what she had evolved to become. And so I had to embrace her.
Yeah.
Okay?
You did.
So I'm in the bookstore because I also at the time I like to read. And also, like I told you, I'm a tinkerer, right? I like to take things apart, put them together. I like to build stuff. So I was in the bookstore looking at what was going to be my next build. And this book fell off the shelf. It's called HTML for Dummies. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't mean it literally jumped off. I probably was moving some stuff around and it fell off. And I was like, well, ooh, that might be a sign. What's that? And so I picked it up and I opened it and I saw, and it all looked like a whole other language to me. So I said, well, this is definitely different. And so I bought it. And mind you, I didn't have a lot of money at the time. My money was real funny at the time.
Your money was funny.
When you're going through a situation,
That's
the money
right.
is going out real fast.
Right.
And like I said, I had moved back to Jersey, so I wasn't auditioning a lot. the roles weren't coming in. And so so whatever, it was $13. I bought the book, I took it home, and now I needed a computer. I had a computer, but I didn't have what I needed to make
Not to do that.
all this stuff happen.
You didn't
right?
have that type of
I didn't have this processor.
Right.
So I was like, well, I need a new computer. So I said, well, I don't know how. I don't have $1,200 or $2,000, whatever it was at the time.
Could have been.
It could have been $400.
Right,
I didn't have
matter.
it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I said, now mind you, this was after Soul Food. That's how deep it was.
Right.
You go up, down, you go up again. This is what builds the character.
Yep.
So I went to one of these big box stores and I applied for a credit card, the store credit card. They gave me a line of credit. Now, what was funny is that, and it was fine at the time. I had great credit.
You had great credit. Okay,
yeah,
good.
credit was fine.
Good.
So they gave me a line of credit, and what was funny is they gave me a line of credit that was just about the exact amount I needed to purchase this computer.
Okay.
So I purchased the computer. I went home, set it up, started opening that book and started teaching myself how to build websites. And this is when you had to code it, right? This was like Dreamweaver.
Right.
Like there was no drag and drop modular building a website. This was putting in the characters, syntax, making sure, this was the real deal. And so I taught myself how to code, and then I started building websites for friends of mine, some of whom you know. And I said, don't pay me. I don't want the money because I don't even really know if I'm going to really be able to do this, but I'm pretty sure I can build you a website. And I built some websites for friends. And then I was like, okay, I have a new skill. I know what to do. I've learned this new thing now. But what it taught me was that my industry was about to change.
Yes.
So I said, I got to go sound the alarm to my peers. Streaming is coming. The way we consume content is changing.
Yeah.
The way we get paid is about to change.
Yep.
We need to start doing things differently or thinking differently around our business models. But people were, what is she talking about?
You're actors. What do you mean?
Right. What do you mean, YouTube? What are you talking about?
Right.
And this was all there was at the time, YouTube.
Right. Yeah.
And then all the networks. So I started a YouTube channel. I started a YouTube channel.
I do. You were
doing
one of
hair.
You were one of the first people that I remember doing that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because of
the
divine downloads that were like, it's about to change.
Yeah.
Get in this digital content game. And then I said, okay, Lord, I'm ready. I'm ready to go back to LA. But when I go back to LA, I now know I'm going back different.
Yeah.
Remember he said that?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm different now. So I'm going back different. I said, but I need some cash. This is a conversation, conversation I'm having with God. I need some cash. And so I was reading some other books at the time, and one of the books was saying, well, you need to be very specific about what it is you're asking or what you want. And I said, well, this is a true story. I need $25,000. This is what I just threw this number out. This is what I need. I need $25,000. Put that out there, and I'm going about my business, whatever I'm doing. And one day I get a call from my agent, and they're saying that there's a role that they want to offer you on a new TV series. And I said, oh, okay. Offer? Like, not audition? Which, mind you, doesn't happen. Didn't happen to me. This might have been the first time and this was a series regular role, the lead role in a TV series. Nobody ever offers you that. You always have to test for it or something. They were going to offer it to me. I said, okay. And so we're negotiating for the money, and I have, a quote, a certain amount, a dollar amount of money that I'm sorry, you know what? I didn't. I said, I need $50,000. That's what I said.
Oh, it's even more.
Yeah,
more.
I said 50. I need $50,000 because this is where it will make sense. I said to God, I need $50,000. This will set me straight. I'll be able to move. I'll be able to, go set myself up in LA. I'll be good. Pay off these debt. I need 50 grand. The agent calls and says, they're going to offer you this role. And we're negotiating for what the salary would be. And I had a certain quote because I had already been on TV shows. And so when you have a certain quote, your quote is up there because I worked on a show for 5 years and I've done other stuff. So when we started negotiating, they came in so low that it was kind of like, oh, I can't take that.
Right.
I can't take that money.
Right.
That's not even close to my quote. What are you talking about? And then the other voice in me said, yeah, well, how are you going to not take that?
Right.
You got $400 in the bank,
Right.
and you need even that low ball. You need it. So you might want to take it. Never forget this. Call my girlfriend, Nicole, Ari Parker. And I said, Nicole, they offered me this TV show. She's like, oh my God, that's great. I was like, yeah, but they're coming in so low. I don't think I can take it. She said, well, Malinda, how much can you believe for? I said, what? She said, how much can you believe for?
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know what? I got to be honest. I really only believe they'll give me $25,000. She said, well, then call your agent and tell them you'll take $25,000. I was like,
wow.
Okay. But it was an honest moment.
Yeah.
Like I was asking for something, but what was I believing?
Yeah.
I could only truly be honest that I could believe for $25,000.
Yeah.
So then we wrapped up the deal. You know, my agent called. He said, they got a best and final offer. I already knew what he was going to say.
I already knew it.
I said, well, what's the best and final offer? He said, they said $25,000.
You already knew.
I said, I'll take it. Right? So then they had to go. And then I was the first to be cast. So I was the lead. And then they had to go and cast the, husband and sister and all the other characters. And while all of this was going on, I get a phone call from my attorney who says, I'm going to send you over the paperwork so that you can go ahead and look it over and sign it. And we can talk through it and blah, blah, blah. So I get the paperwork delivered to my house. I open up the paperwork and I look at it. I look at the bottom line and I pick up the phone and I call my attorney and I said, I thought we negotiated for $25,000. I think they made a mistake because on the bottom line here it says $50,000.
Which was what they could afford.
So my attorney said, oh, I forgot to tell you. They actually are going to shoot 2 pilots, which never in the history of entertainment had I ever even heard of them shooting 2 pilots. Because why are you doing that? A pilot is what? A pilot.
Right.
It's not 2 pilots.
Right.
It's not 2 episodes. He said, but they're going to shoot 2 episodes. So they're actually going to pay you $50,000, which is what I asked for.
I know.
And I believe God was saying, listen, I know what you need. And I know what you asked me for. And so I was showing you what you were believing, but I was giving you what you asked for. Even in that moment, I got tons more stories, but that one was like,
wow.
And then I said, okay, well, I'm good. I'm straight. I'm going back to LA. And when I came back to LA, I came back different.
You did.
And so I see things different now.
You did. And you were so much more open to a different type of pivot because you get into coding and tech, you marry a tech executive. Like it's just like that's a completely different pathway than you would have thought.
That's right.
And it leads you to, we talk about this in the very beginning, where you kind of are now, you wind up starting a 501c3 to help others with coding and tech and things of that nature. In particular, you've helped women and you've helped HBCUs.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, as I stated, that time in the valley, that time in the jungle was very real for me.
Yeah.
It was very real for me. And I felt hopeless. I knew I would find my way out eventually, but it was a period where I believe I was being held to learn some things. Most of all, the power of my own resilience. Yeah. And I thought when I came out of that, not only was I going to sound the alarm to my peers, but I was going to start an organization, which I did in Arise and Shine. Arise and Shine Foundation came about later. But when I went back to LA, I originally started a women's empowerment brunch. And yearly, I would have a women's empowerment brunch, which would be like a working brunch.
Yep.
It would be like, we're not going to just sit here and gather and network, yes, but, just passively network. We're going to be active participants in our own upliftment, right? In our own uplifting. We are going to intentionally network. We're going to be who we say we are. We're going to put pen to paper, write affirmations. We're going to be honest and truthful during this brunch. And they turn out to be these really wonderful, emotional, uplifting. We would dance and we would sing and we would write and we would work and we would think and we would contribute and we would pour into each other. And they were very meaningful and very powerful. Because again, I thought, well, the last thing really Hollywood needs is another brunch.
Right.
But we can have a brunch, we can break bread, but there's work to do. Yeah. And so Rise and Shine started out as that work.
Yeah.
And when I moved to, as you said, I married a tech executive and he got an opportunity. And with that opportunity came an opportunity to leave Hollywood again for a season.
Right.
As I now know, because I heard in my spirit, because we didn't have to go. It was during COVID. But in my spirit, it was like, no, it's time to go. And so, again, it was another go moment for me. And so I went, and while I was in Silicon Valley, walking through the mall with a mask on, a woman recognized me and she walked up to me and she said, I know you. I know who you are. And she happened to be an executive at a company who gave us our first seed money for the foundation that now supports technology, empowerment, and education for women. Not just women, but certainly we started at HBCUs. Our first year was at Jackson State. Second year was at FAMU and Cheney. And now we're going out to the broader community.
Let me tell you, I happen to have been around for a lot of this part of your journey. I'm so proud of you because you basically decided you were going to pivot and you were not going to give up and you were not going to say no. And you had been working on this ideal for a minute. It wasn't, again, it didn't just happen overnight. It wasn't just like, I get the story about meeting her at the mall and I know who you're talking about. But by the time that had happened, you had put in a lot of work.
Yes.
And so it goes back to even the beginning of your story. Just the steps are ordered. That's right. So it was just the right time for all the work you had already been doing for this. And it just lined up.
That's
right. It was the time for it to line up. But make no bones about it, listeners. It wasn't like she just had a chance meeting in the mall. No, by the time that meeting happened, she was ready to go. And it just needed to be with the right partner. And then once that happened, it just exploded. So I'm very proud of what you did. And we will definitely share in this show notes. I would love for you to tell kind of for this next part of your life. We're kind of where we are today. We talk about just fine. You are just fine.
Just fine.
In every sense of the word. How can we support you? Yeah. What can we do? We will definitely put your IG and all that stuff in the show notes. But how can my listeners support you? And then we always ask Malinda, what makes you happy? And it's the song that makes you happy. And it can be any song, but we love to know what is making you happy today.
What I want to say here is my foundation is asforwomen.org. And what I would love for you to do is go onto the website and just donate $10. Donate $10. I think what happens is people like me which is why our stories of adversity are very important. We're human beings. Life has ups and downs, ebbs and flows, and we go through things also. Right. And people think, well, you have a foundation, you got it, you're rich and famous, and so everything is taken care of. And it's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true. And while sometimes everything might be taken care of, it's really not even about that. What it's more so about is this is a community effort.
That's right.
It's a way that we as a community give back to ourselves. We pour into us, whether it's upskilling, reskilling, supporting our community in whatever way. It takes resources. It takes funds. It takes a village.
Right.
And so I say, just come to be a part of the village. And I know a lot of people ask. That's why I say, just donate $10. If you have 100, great, give it. If you have 1,000, please, we welcome it.
Right.
But just be a part of the flow, of the currency. that flows through our community. So that's one thing that I would love to say. It's asforwomen.org. It's called the Arise and Shine Foundation, Inc. My two sisters and I started it, and we really started it after doing thinking through what our community needs and where we wanted to support, where we wanted to begin supporting, which is in the youth, right? In the young ladies, because that was the experience that we had. We understood the foundation of confidence and how important it was to each of our success. And so if we can impart that to young women in our community, then that's where we knew we could start. And we've since branched out. But that said, I think, what song makes me happy when I think of that now? We Are Family.
Oh,
Sister Sledge. That one can play, and instantly it's, that.
I got all my sisters
I got
and
all
me.
my sisters with me.
And you do. You have sisters biological,
Yes.
friends.
Yeah.
You have all your sisters with you.
I do.
Again, Malinda, it's been so much fun having you share your journey and your story and your songs with our listener. We do a quick recap of the songs because I don't know if you know, there is a playlist that's going to be on Spotify.
Very excited.
So let me not mess up your first song. I got to listen to it.
Okay.
So it is Sun Shower. First song is Sun Shower by Dr. Buzzard's original Savannah Band. Second, we have Fight the Power by Public Enemy. Third, we have Control by Janet Jackson. Fourth, we have Bag Lady by Erykah Badu. We finish up with Just Fine by Mary J. Blige. And your bonus song is We Are Family, Sister Sledge.
That's right.
Melinda, thank you for being on the show.
Shannon.
I appreciate it.
This was fun.
Thank you. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to No Boxes, Just Verses. And if this episode moved y'all, please share it, rate us, follow the show on your favorite platform, and we can keep building our leadership playlists together. So you can find me, guys, on Instagram as Shannon Nash1 and No Boxes, Just Verses on Instagram. You can also find me on LinkedIn as Shannon Nash ESQ CPA. You can also find No Boxes, Just Verses on LinkedIn. You can visit our website at noboxesjustverses.com. Finally, don't forget to check out the show notes. The show notes are super important because this is where the playlists will live. You will be able to get these playlists on Apple and Spotify. You'll also be able to follow up and see how to reach out to the guests, follow them and support them. Until next time, I need you to stay unboxed. You come for the stories, but you stay for the playlists. I'm Shannon Nash, and I'm out.
No boxes, just verses. Listen to the sound. No boxes, just verses. We not playing around. No boxes, just verses. Every voice reverse. No boxes, just verses. Units just rehearse. No. This is Shannon Nash and I got cloud. This is Shannon Nash, the show's about. No boxes, just verses. The songs we used to play. No boxes, just verses. How we found our way. No boxes, just verses. Leading every day. No boxes, just verses. Let's all together say